All right, Harmony Science Academy students, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to be looking at inverse functions, okay? This is not uh, anything bogus, anything you should dismiss. This is preparing you for advanced, okay, a more advanced mathematics because of the notation and your application of concepts you already know and are familiar with, okay? So let's go ahead and get straight into it so we see what I'm talking about. So what they want the inverse of each function, okay? So really what they want is this. Okay? So again, what is it that I just wrote here? Right? You've seen it before, but here it's being I'm putting it on here to communicate that this is the inverse of h of x. So you have h of x. What is the inverse of it? Okay? Kind of like the reverse. All right? Mathematically talking, right? As far as operations go, if we do all the reverse in a specific order, we should have the inverse. Okay? So let's go ahead and try it with this technique, okay? Now, normally this is y equals this, right? Well, in this case, for us to get h inverse, I'm going to switch x and y. Okay. Now, this begins the inverse process. When I'm done, I'll have h inverse. Okay, remember, that's all we're focused on. Hey, can you do the reverse of all this? So, the next thing I'm going to do, okay, is I'm going to solve for y. Okay? So if you guys look, what's the first thing you would think of doing, right? And you really want to think PEMDAS. So if we solve for y, the first thing we do is multiply by 3. So we get 3x equals, okay? Now here, right, if we're trying to solve for y, what's the next thing we would do? Okay? Again, you think PEMDAS and you do basically the reverse. So in this case, the next thing we are going to do is add 2 to both sides, okay? So if I add 2 here and 2 here, it'll cancel on this side, so I have 3x plus 2 equals negative 2y, okay? And the last step here to get y by itself would be for what? Okay, you guys can pause the video, but if you thought about dividing by negative 2, good. It'll cancel out here and transfer this way, okay? So then I have equals y, okay? Now again, all this process was so that we can get h inverse. So h inverse equals 3x plus 2 over negative 2, okay? And here you have h, and here you have h inverse, okay? So let's try a couple more examples. Let's look at this one, okay? I'm going to try and go a little faster just so you guys can appreciate that this is pretty easy stuff, okay? So f inverse equals what, okay? So if you guys understood this first problem, you're going to repeat the same process, okay? So where do I start, okay? Again, this is y equals some function in terms of x. So I'm going to switch it. Okay, I'm going to put x equals negative 20 plus y over 5. Okay? Now, the next thing from here is to solve for y. Okay? And whatever's left over will be our f inverse. Okay? So, if you look at this problem, you can pause the video. The question is, what should I do first? Okay? If you're thinking multiply by 5, good. All right. Now, can I stop here? How would I know? Well, if y is by itself, you can stop. If it's not, okay? If on the other side of the equal sign it still has other stuff, get rid of everything. So pause the video and ask yourself, what do I do next? Okay? If you're thinking add 20 to both sides, good. Okay? Because adding 20 will cancel here. And I'm left with this expression, okay, which is my f inverse. Let's see if I can squeeze it in here. 5x plus 20. Okay, kind of ran out of space there, but hopefully you understand what I'm doing here. All right, let's go and try another one. Okay, notice that these are all different looking problems, but I'm solving them the same way. Okay, and that's what you want to really appreciate on this next one, that I'm about to repeat the same process. So let's go through it as fast as possible. Okay, again, I have y equals this expression in terms of x, so let me switch x and y. Okay, and here's what I mean, right? This is what we have. We're given a function. F of x is really our y coordinate. Okay, so now I'm just going to switch these two, which means I have x equals y plus 1 raised to the 5th power plus 3. Okay, it looks kind of intimidating, but it's really not. Okay, so again, we need to solve for y, isolate y. So what's the first thing we would do here? Okay, the first thing we want to do is subtract 3 to both sides, so we have x minus 3. Okay, and again, what they are asking us is what is f inverse. Okay, so we'll put it right here. So I've got this. How do I get rid of an exponent of 5? Okay, you can pause the video and think about it. But if you were thinking about taking the square root, okay, or excuse me, the 5th root of both sides, you're correct. Okay, because the 5th root cancels out a 5th exponent. Okay, or an exponent of 5, sorry. So now we have, now this might look a little intense, but again, all you have to worry about is the index. So if this was a 4, right, exponent of 4, then a 4th root would cancel it. Real simple. Okay, very powerful, very simple. Okay, so here it cancels and we're left with y plus 1. And to get y by itself, what's the last thing I need to do is subtract 1, right? Okay, to both sides. The minus 1 is on the outside. And this is my f inverse. Okay, so notice that this is very powerful math that you guys are going to be able to do, and you should be very proud of yourselves because this is pretty cool. Okay, all right, now I'm doing a couple examples, that's why the video is a little longer than usual, but this is good for you guys to have available. Okay, so let's look at this last one. Again, we have a function and they're asking for f inverse. Whoops. Okay, so technically I should write the y. I didn't in the beginning, I apologize, I should have. Okay, I think it just makes it more obvious, but if you'll forgive me, we'll start doing that. Okay, so there, now all I have to do is switch the y and the x. The cube root of y plus 2. Okay, the only way to get y is to do the opposite of everything in here. Okay, so notice in this case, before I can get in here, I have to get rid of this guy. So in this case, how do I get rid of a cube root? Okay, if you thought do the opposite and put an exponent of 3, good. Okay, that'll cancel out. That's pretty awesome, right? So we have x cubed equals y plus 2 over 2. Notice how cool. Got rid of it. Okay. Now, The question is, what do we do next? If you're thinking multiply by 2, perfect. Okay, because it'll cancel out on this side. Okay, so in case you kind of forgot some of your algebra skills, I'll put it there in red. So 2 divided by, so multiplying by 2 and dividing by 2 cancels, and that's what's left over. Okay, so we have y plus 2, and at this last step, okay, how do we get rid of plus 2? We subtract 2, okay, or that's kind of awkward there. Okay, technically we can put something like this, okay? So we're left with 2x cubed minus 2 equals y. Now that y is by itself, we're done, and our f inverse is 2x cubed minus 2, okay? We'll stop right there, guys, and the next thing we'll do is practice in class. See you then.